All right, so this is the second session, installing the web code for your local instance of the FHIR server. Kind of have it play around. So this is the web code. Yesterday we did the database. So installing both of these should give you a local instance to where you actually have the ability to do CRUD operations. CRUD operations are, for those who don't know, are create, read, update, and delete instances within the database and the API in general. So what we're going to do, I won't pull up the database or anything, but we'll just jump right into the code. As mentioned before, Tomcat 8.0 or higher is definitely recommended, if not required. And we'll give that just a moment for that to pop up on my screen. So here we can see everything. The version that I grabbed is the 64-bit Windows zip, and you can download that easily. Should give you, there you go. I downloaded an earlier one that I was working with. I'll go ahead and get that started, but we'll jump to the folder. For me, I placed it into my Eclipse folder right here. It's not required that you put it here, but for me, when I'm developing other things, it was easily accessible and quick to get to when working through Eclipse. Here, basically this is what you should see when you unzip the bin folder, which has everything to kind of get the server started up, things like that. The web apps, things like that. You'll see I have FHIR OMOP v5, OMOP v5. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. We'll get the new one that I downloaded. This is the continuation, or the continuing from yesterday's download. Basically, if you need this, you should be able to go to the Piazza post and be able to download this. This is the WAR file. So WAR, it's a Java application, comes down, and if you jump in and grab this, it would be this file right here. Again, you can highlight all of those, right click on them, download to get everything you have, database, the instructions for setting up, and the WAR file, which is what we're concentrating on tonight. So I'm going to copy this WAR file over to my Tomcat. You don't have to do this. You should be able to get it from anywhere, but just easier, I believe. So we have that there. So the biggest thing, you can use command prompts. So if I go to that, run as administrator, it's always a benefit when you're working on Windows. Right. So I'm not sure why it's throwing any problems there. So there's we're in here, we can do it either way. We can decide to use start.bat. This is what's going to get everything going. Really, you can, if you're on Windows, you can just come and double click on that. You can also do it from here. If you have Apache and Java set up as your with the Java home variables and everything in your environment variables, you can do that. There's plenty of information on how to do that online. So just for show, I'm going to start it up through the folder. We'll see one command prompt pop up and then another one. This could take a minute when starting up the server, just as within any server. But in a moment, we will see everything kind of come through. Server startup. Yesterday, we were speaking about changing config files. So if you're running other development environments, things that require web app development, you're probably already using your 8080 port, your 8080. You may want to modify those. So in your conf folder here is where you can do a lot of that. So I just highlighted everything there. The big one that you'll want to do is make sure that your Tomcat roles and users are set up. We see here we have a difference between the roles. Tomcat's going to be essentially your super user instead of another role where you can identify definitions for that role and things later on. Basically, you want these two ones, the user of Tomcat as well as the role of Tomcat. And here you can see how you assign those roles to that user. If you haven't set up those users and those roles as of yet, it may be beneficial for you to go back to the bin and do the shutdown of that. Not required, but it does help to kind of clean everything, get everything going. But once those users are set up, you'll be able to get back in. It should start up, about half the time that it took of last time. So everything going. Now that we have that going, we can actually open up our service. So we have here localhost 8080. As I mentioned before, this is going to be your go-to port. If you want to modify that, that's going to be configuration files. Once this is loaded up, you will have a couple different options, but we're going to go to the manager app here. We see we have the host manager, other pages that are set up. These should be pretty identical to what you would see in the web apps folder. If you see here, host manager, root, etc., etc. What you want to do though is we want a WAR file to deploy. We're going to browse to that. Eclipse. I'm just going to Apache Tomcat, find that file there, and we'll deploy that here. Take a couple of minutes to run through, but it's not too terrible. So if you remember earlier, I copied over from that download that we had here the actual WAR file that we needed. Any questions from anyone so far?
I have questions at a later point, Taylor, so I'll probably get to it when we reach towards the end.
Okay, I mean, right now it's loading that WAR file. It's deploying
okay, sure.
to Tomcat, so we have a couple minutes.
All right. So I got all this set up. I've got the WAR and I can see it under the applications. And when I click on that particular application, I'm able to open the FHIR server. It gives me an error which says warning failed to load conformance statement. Error was, and then there's a server exception resource not found 404. And then I don't see any resources under the resources tab. So I don't know if there's anything more I need to do.
Okay. Yeah, so that's definitely something we can take a look at, and that was perfect timing because everything just finished loading. Once this does finish loading, by the way, you'll notice that in your web apps folder, you'll get a new FHIR AMOP v5. This is basically what gets everything. So I'm assuming, Aditi, that this is the error you're receiving?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, we have quite a few of configuration files that help to kind of point us to the database as well as everything else. So go back in here. The other items are going to be our config files once the site is set up. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit all these in Notepad++, so that we have them going on. GT FHIR web app, you'll notice here, first of all, GT FHIR web app, that's not the exact website that we have. If we go back to here, hit FHIR, I'm on V5. So this, again, is the web app config, FHIR web app config. So what I'm going to do here is just replace that and save that. The FHIR server resource provider is GTSU2. I don't remember having to change anything in here. The config file. So Postgres current schema equals OMOP v5. We have 5432. But we should have some notes in here for making those changes. So here we have our OMOP v5 connector there, more database, but here, so local setup of text server, here's what you need to change if running locally. So web app FHIR server database config.xml. Database config.xml here. So basically what I'm going to do is from the PDF, I'm going to take this bean, I'm going to copy that, and oops. And of course it gobbled it up and didn't clean any of that. So maybe I'll just do this one line at a time. This is the big line right here. The one we want to replace anyway. So there we go. So now it's set up to actually look at our local host of 5432. And if you remember yesterday, that's the port we set up that on our PG admin, our Postgres SQL there, for the FHIR OMOP v5 database with the instance of OMOP v5 as the user. So that's the big change there. And then in the, just let me double check, make sure I'm not missing anything. So now we can go into web INF, FHIR app web app config.xml, and here. And this one I already changed, but we can actually look at that in the database. We'll see bean class for the tester config. Everything we have here pretty much matches there. And it's going to come out a little garbled. If you want to clean that up just from the text, you can. But again, the big line that we're looking for is going to be right here. So we want to make sure that we have all of that in our list. So from the property down, Yeah, that's a comment. Yeah, a comment there. We can get rid of that. That's all comments. Gatech DTSU2 release server, localhost 8080, not v5, base. And if we look here, it's pretty much identical. Not easy to copy over from the embedded code in the page. Next steps, are importing the database file. We did this yesterday. After that, you're pretty much done. So I'm going to go through, make sure I've saved this, close these out. And I am going to restart my Tomcat server. Did look at this a little bit yesterday, but you can actually see the WAR file starts to get loaded now right off the bat. And this is why it takes a little bit longer. Now we actually have some instance to load off of. Looks like it started. We can go back. Go back to our manager app. We have Unlock V5. And the error is gone. So Aditi, did that kind of answer your question there?
Yes, it did. I just realized that I had not corrected the app name in one of the config files. It was still showing what was there by default. So I've just changed that now. I'm going to restart Tomcat at my end.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, no problem. The conformance statement, you have the option to grab this. It's nothing really. Like I said, it explains that you have the ability to create or to use CRUD actions in whatever you may create from this, things like that. If we go to medication administration, we can actually do a search. Does not look like much came back. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what is included in the database, but here we can actually see that we can read just about anything that is available. But with the CRUD operations, this gives you the ability to, A, to use this and build upon this for whatever apps you guys are doing for your projects. And B, if you really wanted to make sure that everything was correct, you could instantiate this app within yours and build upon it to actually call to what's live right now on our FHIR servers at Georgia Tech. Patients, same thing. So we have all of our patients and things like that. I don't see Marla, but it might be a few too many pages. So 301 entries. So any questions, guys?
I don't have any questions. I still seem to be getting the same error. So I'll probably just go back and look at my config files again.
Okay, well, I can kind of help you out with that if you want to share your screen.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to stop recording for this. I think we're pretty much done. So if Tom, any questions from you on your end?
Nope, no questions on my side. Thank you.
Okay, well, other than that, I guess that's about it. Thanks, everyone.